Well, speaking of, I mean, Utah. I mean, you're talking about driving in Utah. Talk to me. I mean, kind of how I really started to feel, honestly, just like comfortable with, like with you and like on social media was just like your, just you posting like your life and your story and being so vulnerable on social media. But like when I noticed that you were like really getting into kind of like the pride movement and as living in somewhere like Utah and, being so open about like, hanging a pride flag in your front yard. And it was you had the video of someone like stealing it, right? From your front yard.
Yes.
Yeah. So just kind of, I just want to hear, like, I was watching some of your videos on like Instagram today, like just like the concerts and stuff you've gone to, like just kind of talk to me about how you got into like just being an ally for like this community that's obviously like something that's like very, very important to
Yeah.
me.
That video, by the way, it got blocked. Like you got to like
Really?
yeah, I got put in TikTok jail for
Really?
posting hate content,
Oh, stop it.
and uh, it was just the comments of
Really?
people. Yeah, because the comments were so
So bad.
mean.
Oh
Because
no.
I posted it with the Beavis and Butthead
Oh,
sound. Because I
yeah.
was like, the guy had his head, he was trying to hide his face. He pulled his
Right.
head up. It was just like the Great Cornholio.
Yeah.
So I was making fun of him
Right.
because he looked like Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
But apparently, the people who were congregating on the post thought I was
The one stealing the
attacking
flag.
LGBTQ.
Oh.
So they were ganging up,
Mm.
and they said the most terrible things. So it kept getting pulled down.
So maybe it's a
Um,
good thing I got pulled down then, huh?
no, I actually don't think so, because I think if
No.
it would have been up further, you would see why I would fly
Okay.
a flag,
Yeah. You're right.
because
That's right. That's right.
they were they were jumping on the bandwagon with me, because in from their perception I was saying,
Like take
they
the flag
thought
or
they thought I was like, they made comments like, yeah, good thing they ripped it down and makes good toilet paper. um my American flag was stolen last week. I don't, you know
yeah.
so therefore, why are
Right.
you crying about? Yeah, and
Yeah.
good riddance. I mean, so much hate. And um, when I moved to Utah, I did not have any LGBTQ issues like in the forefront, simply because it wasn't. I didn't have a problem. Like
Right.
I why would I? Why would I create a stir? Because there's nothing going on here.
Right.
I was Mormon at the time too, and I was living in this bubble where I thought that I don't know what they're talking about, because I don't see any. Um, all I see is love and acceptance,
Right.
because you
Because
know
you weren't exposed to what was actually
I
happening.
had,
Yeah.
I had no clue. But then I went back to BYU,
And you're like, oh,
and uh, yeah, I was also getting involved with Encircle. It's a local group of parents of LGBTQ youth, and so there were just many. There were many factors that made me decide that it was important for me to fly a flag. Um, I think the biggest one was, gosh, it's hard to pick the biggest one. There are so many. So whenever I had a picture of the flag um, flying on my house, someone commented and they said, they asked me, like, honestly, because they were LDS too. They said, how do you
mm-hmm.
reconcile
Mm-hmm.
the two? And to me, I thought there's nothing to reconcile because none of my beliefs um,
Like
like
conflict.
conflict,
Yeah.
right? But then when I was at BYU, there was a moment when one of the apostles came to campus, and to preface, the Salt Lake City area has one of the highest LGBTQ like rates. That's not the right word.
Suicide rates? Is that
There are no there. Well,
oh.
yes, that too.
Mm. Mm.
There are a lot of LGBTQ
I see what you're saying.
people in Salt Lake.
Like per capita, like Salt Lake City has like a large percentage of LGBTQ people.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
yes. I don't know why
Yeah.
because it, it's it is not LGBTQ friendly.
We thought about moving there, but that like that was the reason Kai didn't want to. He's like, I think they hate us there. So
So
because
here's the thing that bothered me. They don't hate you openly,
yeah,
but I have a problem with the term acceptance because I realized or tolerance, that's what it is. Tolerance. They're
yeah,
tolerant. So they're
mm,
not going to go out with pitchforks and pull you out of your house, okay? But
but they're
there's
gonna look at
no
you like
everybody wants to belong, right?
right.
That's like you, Brene Brown's talks
Oh,
about
yeah.
accept like being accepted versus belonging. I think that's what
Mhm.
she talks about. So when I was at BYU, that is the Mormon school. Okay, um, I was wearing my rainbow watch and just I was really doing my best to just like there were lots of kids there who would they just needed to know like
Just need right,
don't listen to them, just listen to me.
right.
You do you, okay? And don't let anybody tell you different. And then one of the leaders of the church came and uh, he basically gave this really awful speech and talked about that he wanted to hear more musket fire coming from the House of Learning. He used the term musket fire
Yeah,
in an area that does have a extremely high rate of um, suicide
yeah,
amongst the LGBTQ youth here are so at risk.
right.
Um, and he basically drew a line and said, you know, the church needs you to be on this side, and he told people to stop advocating and
Mm.
that you couldn't be an ally. Oh my gosh, for a minute I saw your dog and I thought it was my dog. And
Oh.
I was like, did somebody let a stray dog in? Because, yeah.
Both of my dogs are behind me.
So, anyway, back to the reconciling. I realized, hey, my religious beliefs are actually harming this community. So, I really examined what do I believe? And there is nothing in me that believes if there's something that separates me from another person, I want to know what it is and I want to, you know, pluck it out.
Right,
And so I flew the flag because I realized that there for one house with an accepting and affirming parent, there are like 20 houses here that will tolerate them.
right.
Yeah. I heard one her name is Jillian Orr. She was a BYU student recently that put a flag under her graduation. Um,
Nice.
and she flashed it
I love that.
at graduation. And then I also met Maddie Easton. He came out in his valedictorian, or is that what it's called?
Oh,
Valedictorian speech.
okay. Oh, at the college graduation, I don't know what is that what they call them
So
still there? No.
yes, and the ironic thing is, so I met Maddie Easton, and the speech from the general authority of the church was he was calling Maddie Easton out, saying that Maddie commandeered the meeting and used it for his own LGBTQ agenda. That's not what happened, right?
Right.
So I met Maddie Easton, and I don't know. So I got to know people, actual people who have suffered in
Right.
this area for lack of support.
Right.
And the,
So it became important for you at that time to like just
yeah,
show like, and I what I love about it is because I look back to like my own childhood and just like my own upbringing, and I like, I mean obviously too, like when I was growing up, like I don't even know if there was a pride flag, but um like just I feel like just knowing that there's people that see you and people that like people that drove by your house, like they don't have to know who you are, but like just seeing that representation and knowing like that there are people out there that like provide like a safe space and that you are accepted for who you are is so important. Because I feel like for me, like when I look back, like I literally never knew somebody who was gay growing up. And well, it's not true. I did know a few, but it was always like such a joke. Like they weren't taken seriously.
yeah,
Like it
it
was,
was probably a whisper.
yeah, yes, and like yes, and the like I just for privacy purposes, I won't say anyone's names, but like I just remember it being like such a joke, and like amongst like like the adults that I was around, like it was funny to them, and so for me, like especially like on movies or shows or anything like that, like there was nothing like that when I was growing up to even just like see that like it was okay to be gay. And it literally took like it wasn't even until I moved to Boston to where like it's like just like so normal here. Like even like the hospital I work at now, like people don't even think twice about it. There's like gay people everywhere, like openly, like you don't even think about it. But like even
Mm-hmm.
when I lived in Arizona, like you still didn't see that. Like it wasn't just like this like normal thing. Like when I worked there, like I maybe like one other person that was like openly gay. So it's just interesting, like the divide that we still have. And so just for you living somewhere like that to like give people that safety and like just to know that they're represented, and especially somewhere like BYU, like is so important.
I wouldn't, honestly, it wouldn't even be an issue. Like, I wouldn't fly a flag if I lived anywhere else because
You
you
wouldn't
don't
need to.
need to. You don't need
Right.
to. Like,
Right.
yeah, in England, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody
Right.
ever discussing it, but also like you it wasn't odd
Right. It's just
to
integrated into
see
the
a gay
culture.
couple. They were just a couple.
Right.
Yeah. So, BYU recently did a survey to see like how many people identified um, as non not cisgendered
Like just
heterosexual, just something
oh,
different, right?
like a part of like the LGBTQ at all, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 20%.
Mm.
So that's roughly one in four,
Right.
right? So
Right.
there was uh, there was have you seen the documentary Mormon No More?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, there's a documentary on Hulu, and the people that did the documentary, Sal and Lena, um, they were. I went to a party and I met them, and I was interviewed for the the documentary,
Oh,
and I got to participate in a lot of that in
what's it on? Hulu, you said?
Hulu. It's
Oh,
called
okay.
Mormon No More.
I'll have to check it
Yeah,
out.
I'm really bummed. I didn't get. They didn't use any of um, my footage. The sound quality was really bad, and so yeah. So that was
But
just kind of. They were
you're still
like,
part of it though.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I think I'm an attention whore. I don't know. I just
I am too. It's funny.
I love to talk. I'm like, really?
I
You
mean,
want to talk to me? Okay. Well, buckle up, baby. Because so Sal,
yeah.
she calls her on Instagram. She's the coming out coach. So
Mm,
she coaches people to coming out. I found so many similarities to the way I felt about being Mormon, but not really believing anymore. But still, just I didn't want to disrupt
right.
completely. You
Yeah, that
know,
is very similar. Yeah.
it's like a big, yeah, it's a big thing. And I found it similar, like to being gay. Just
Yeah.
the amount of
Fear. I
yes,
could, yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like I said, you don't you don't want just people to tolerate and accept you. Jillian Orr was saying that she felt like within the church she was a stray dog. Like, we'll feed you, we'll pet you, and we'll take care
Yeah.
of you, but you're not allowed in the house,
Yeah. Right.
right? And
Right.
so I thought to myself, like, if okay, odds are 1 of 4. Sal just she's really blunt. Just that's just how her personality is. And she said, "Hey Stephanie, how many kids do you have?" And I said 4. And she's like, "All right." And she goes, "Which one of them is gay?" And I was like, "But they all, I I don't think any of them." And she's like, eh. She's like, "Do the math, you know, 4 kids. One of them is going to be gay." And that thought, I was like, all right, well, I better I better prepare then, because
Right.
I would I that thought horrifies me. The thought that my kid might not want to say anything. I mean,
Yeah.
you've experienced
Just the
the,
staying silent
the
and
fear, the
the
fear,
fear. Right.
and and whenever you are fearful, who should you be able to go to?
Parents for
Your
sure. Yeah.
parents. Okay.
Right.
So I thought, if that ever happens, and I haven't done the work to make myself the person that they're comfortable coming and sharing this with me, then I've got work to do. And
Right.
so that is what made me like realize I this is going to be my issue or my agenda, simply because I'm a parent and I know even if all of my kids are heterosexual, I'm a mother to many, many kids. And
Right.
I know that a lot of kids, their parents might not have prepared and might struggle. So
Right. And
I,
if your kids have kids down the line, like it's just like I just feel like what I wish I would have had, because I even look back to it, and I really try not to like look back and like wish things were differently, because I think that just who I am all came from like things I went through and whatnot.
yeah,
But all I wish that I would have had, and again, not I don't know if it would have changed anything. I still may have kept it a secret, but just like knowing that like if I was to get to the point that I wanted to tell people, I would have been okay, would have been safe. Like, because when I look back on myself and like my life back then, like that, I was so fearful, and like I had, like even like in high school, like people constantly asked me like if I was gay. Like it was like everybody did, and I always was just like, how can I be more of a boy, or how can I like act in public and not stand a certain way and not talk a certain way, like, and it was just like every day that's like what I had to deal with was like,
yeah.
how can I make sure that like nobody knows like who I am? And it's like that's just not a way that anyone like should have to like live and go through
Oh,
their life.
it's
Like,
it's masking. It's the
mhm,
same thing that autistic uh, people experience, and that requires energy,
right,
right? And so it's really hard to juggle that. And if you're in school or
right,
whatever you're working for, you have to use energy to do that.
right,
Yeah. And Colton, it only takes. I'm glad that you don't look back. I hate regret, because
right,
coulda, shoulda, woulda. You know, we all we all have this life. This is our experience, and none of us are perfect. We all learn different lessons at different times. And like, I just realized that it always takes, just like it takes just a few people to make that hateful situation on TikTok explode, right?
Right.
It only takes a few people to be brave and to say, "Hey, the the morality that you espouse is harming other people.
Right.
Um, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this thing instead. You don't have to like it,
Right.
but I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to fly the flag. We're not going to have a stray dog house.
Right.
So
People are gonna know they're safe here, accepted.
yeah, and
More than
like I kept hearing the term, well, I'm accepting that they're gay, but they don't have to shove it down my throat. And I'm like, oh, well,
yeah. Yeah.
shove it down my throat then.
Right.
Because if you
right.
if somebody tells you that they appreciate that you're alive and they won't kill you, but please, I don't really want to know you.
Right.
I want you to keep that part of yourself quiet. Well, I don't know. That doesn't ring well to me. I
Right.
wouldn't want to be treated like that. I would want someone who says that they love me and they want to get to know me to want to get to know all the parts of me.
Right.
So,
Right. And that,
yeah.
I mean, that's why people like you fly the flag and just like make it known that it's okay to just to be yourself. And I mean, the thing that I've noticed too, like with just like with sexuality and like just like the different people I've been with, it's like because I've really like struggled with like, okay, like when I got into like, the gay community, I'm like, I got to this point where I was like, okay, I'm not like totally fitting in with like the gay crowd. Where do I fit in this? And then I'm like, well, it is a spectrum. I mean, we all like, you know, I can look at somebody who's a woman and be like, oh, like she's beautiful. And like the people that I had like dated before, like, I've had these conversations with them, been like, it's not that I was not like sexually attracted to you. Like it was just like, I always had this attraction for men that I had never really, um, like I had never been with a man before. And once I was like that, I kind of knew like, okay, like, this is more like what I want this. But to me, it's just like, it's more of a spectrum. And
Yeah.
that is like something that I really, really like struggled with. And I feel like I'm kind of like starting to get more into allowing myself to like be in like a gay community and like be more of myself. But I still found myself like hiding, Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, there are like many different ways to identify,
Right.
uh, both with gender and sexuality. I have a good friend. Um, uh, she's married to a woman, and she was explaining to me that she doesn't consider herself actually like lesbian so much as I think she's asexual.
Mm.
So she doesn't really have. Okay, so you this isn't BYU. She just said, I don't like just get horny and aroused when I see women or
Right.
men. My connection with my spouse is unique and I only feel that way towards her. And
So it's it's the
she only
person.
feels that way when they're in that moment.
Okay.
So there's so many different ways. And she
Right.
was married to a man and she just never felt that she married the man because she's supposed to,
Right.
and
Right.
that's what heterosexual people do.
Right.
Um, anyway, and so like, and how would you know if you don't have any frame of reference? If all you've ever been told is you're supposed to like girls,
Right.
then
Right.
when you're not liking them as much as you think you should be, and then but you actually like boys, and then like nobody talks about that. So where do you like
Right.
learn?
I like always
So
thought I literally always thought like it was something that would just go away. Like I was like, I'll outgrow this. Like it's no
yeah,
big deal. And I think I don't know if I'd call this luck, but I felt like lucky enough that like I was able to just like date women and still like feel that connection and like love somebody, you know?
yeah,
And I mean, the last like serious girlfriend I had, like, I mean, you know, it was almost a blessing, like when she broke up with me, because it just gave me kind of like I was fine. That was the first time as like an adult, especially like after college, that I was able to just be by myself. I lived in an apartment alone to where I was like, you know, like this is something I can actually like kind of just face and see how this goes. Like I had literally never told anybody, like not even like a close friend, like it like ever. Like it was something that I literally kept only to myself. Like my sister never knew. And even like when I met Kai and like we had like been dating, like it, it was still like it's just so funny for me to look back on because I'm like, oh my God, like I was literally living like in secret, like nobody knew. Like I told very few people. I think I had actually reached out to you, right? I think I messaged you about it at some point,
yeah.
and then
I
like
don't
I
know at what point you were at, but I remember you saying, I said, "Are you going to tell your mom, or have you told
yeah,
your mom?"
yeah,
Because
right,
I'm not close with your mom right now because we've just gone. But
right,
growing up, she was always my person.
yeah,
And you said, "Well, I guess I should because I'm dating a dude."
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
Probably should,
I just pictured you like, I've been dating this guy for a long time.
yeah.
I guess I
My
should tell you.
I know. And I think that was something my mom and I have talked like quite a bit about it all. And I think from like the mother's perspective, I think her biggest thing was kind of what you're alluding to in the sense of like just wishing that I had known that I was always safe to go to her, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, in hindsight, it's easy to kind of say, but in those times like it wasn't really that way. And I don't, you know, it's hearsay, you never know what would really happen, but I never like I guess like I never thought my mom would like disown me or anything like that, you know, but I still like there was never any conversation or anything about that. And I've told her like many times like I don't think you're a bad mom for it, like you did the best you could with the tools you had. Like you also had never seen anybody who was gay or been around that, so how were you supposed to know to pass that on to me to like know, like to make me know it's okay? Because you know, like I told like my parents, like you had to have known, like you like I was your kid, like you saw my life, and then but then I'm like I'm not a parent. I don't like I have
Mm.
maybe I don't know, like maybe I was good at hiding it and they just had no idea. And so like I really just like try to keep like make sure my mom knows, and I mean she listens to this too, but like that it was never um I never felt like it was her fault, you know. I really truly feel like parents do the best they can with the tools that they have.
I love that. I love that. That that's the statement I keep hanging on to. Is that
Right,
we all do the best we can with what we have.
right. And
Uh,
parenting is hard. Parenting
but
is freaking
I
hard.
think if you realize you don't have it, go get it. You know, um, and that's why I think that it kind of just takes, really what it's all based around is fear of unknown. Um, your mom probably wouldn't. I'm just guessing because I can't be in her shoes. You know, our brains are quite clever at helping us take in information and then kind of warp it, mold it, change it, and make it
Right,
fit, right? And
right,
I think it's a lot that way with the LGBTQ issues. If you're heterosexual, you you don't know what it's like to
right,
be gay. Just
right,
like if you're gay, you don't know what it's like to be heterosexual,
right,
right?
right.
There's a lot of fear.
Mhm.
And how do you combat that, right?
Right, 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 right,
Well, I think the first step is ask. talk to people. So that's kind of what I did is like if I saw somebody who was obviously gay, and or like friends, when I had friends that would come out, I would reach out and like thank them for coming out, and
Right.
like should you don't have to, but if you ever want to talk to me, like
Right. Just knowing. Yeah.
I would love to know like what your experience. I would love to hear it. And
Right.
I went to an LGBTQ rally parade. I don't know. We marched from the Capitol down to the Pride Festival, and so right before we had they had some transgendered like uh, cheerleaders, I guess you could say. I don't know. It was awesome, but the whole theme was um, be yourself and be go ahead and be loud
Right.
and be authentic. And I'm like totally cisgendered, heterosexual, completely not like on like I'm normal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
According to the community.
Yes. Yeah.
And I felt so happy just
That's
knowing that
amazing.
I was accepted
Right.
with my like I hate it so much, but like just I live in Draper. I don't know if you've ever go on social media and just type in Draper mom.
Yeah. Okay.
And my kids tease me all the time. They're like, "You're a
Yeah.
Draper mom." Not stop it. I drive a big white SUV, and I drive that SUV because it it like keeps me safe and warns me if I like have somebody in my blind spot. And
Right.
anyway, and even with all that, like I'm still unique,
Right.
and I just I loved being in the presence of people who have been hiding themselves, but now they're like,
Like liberated to,
yeah,
yeah. And I
yeah,
still I think that like I think that I'm still getting there. Like I think that like I'm like I was saying, I'm not totally to the point where I'm like I don't have a problem like holding like Kai's hand in public or kissing, like things like that. But like I still notice, and I tell Kai too, I'm like when he like, if we're like at the gym or like talking to like a group of guys or something, like I tell him, I'm like, your voice automatically gets deeper and you like try to act like a bro. And it's like
try to act
that
more dude,
yes, and
like
it's like yeah. And I'm like, I think we
oh
both still do things like that because it's just like that's what's been so ingrained in like our lives forever. And it's like it's so hard to just like let that go. Cause I'm like, when we're home, I'm like, that's not how either of us talk. Like we're not trying to like be broy and like, you know, but it's hard to like just let your shell off and just like be who you
yeah,
are. So like yes, things like those festivals and things like that, just like people just like are so liberated to just like be them.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad
See,
you go stuff like that. I'm
as
sure we
a
have stuff like that here.
a heterosexual, like I would want to know how can I make it comfortable for you to be as flaming gay as you want, because
Yeah.
if there's a chance that that like you might feel it's inappropriate, then that says something about the community you're in. It says
Great.
nothing
Yeah.
about you. It says
Yeah.
that the people around you haven't done enough to just, I guess, pull the stick out of their ass to feel
Right.
to allow other people
Just live as
the
themselves. Yeah.
dignity of being happy and being themselves.
Right. When I
You
think
know,
what I kind of look at it as honestly is I think a lot of people are so uncomfortable with themselves too. Like just everyday people, like not even just like people part of the LGBTQ community. It's just like so many people are just like so uncomfortable and don't even know who they are. That like
yeah,
you being you and like being so like confident and just like happy with who you are, like is like a reflection for them of like, oh my God, like I'm still hiding because of like my fear of like,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
You know what was liberating for me was to realize that the gay is not contagious.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Like I it is
You're not going to
just
catch it.
nope. Nope, don't worry. Like I want to tell all the straight people, don't worry.
Don't worry.
Unless you're hiding the fact that
It'll
you're
just bring it out of you.
actually gay inside and you don't want people to find out, that's a different issue. Okay.
Right.
But I promise you, the gays are not out to get your kids.
Right.
They're not trying to shove anything down your throat.
Right.
It it's not contagious. Like you won't become gay just because you immerse yourself
Right.
in it. If anything, like you'll realize how straight you are, and you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I love
so,
that's it's hilarious. I
yeah.
love that.
And I've been mistaken as gay quite a number of times, and someone asked me like, does it bother you that that girl just hit on you? And I'm like,
No.
no. If anything,
I'd
thank,
rather them.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, what
Yeah.
bothered me was the creepy old man
Right.
that
Right.
just hit on me. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that all you can't be comfortable if you're fearful,
Right.
right? Because I think what parents what they're most afraid of is
How it makes them.
how I think genuinely you could probably ask your mom, but she wouldn't be afraid that of you being gay so much as she's afraid of what the future holds for you. She would be afraid of you
Like the world
being
treating you.
hurt.
Yeah.
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 And I think really that is the fear, but a lot of people don't know how to, I guess, identify that the fear is just the unknown. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I
And
honestly like all I like the all that I could ask for when like I finally told my parents, and it was obviously like so stressful and so uncomfortable to just one have the conversation and two like bring Kai home to them, but like them like they've both of them and like both of their spouses have been nothing but like so open and loving and respectful to me and to Kai, which was like what I was like all I really wanted, and I feel like that's all I can ask for honestly, is like the fact that like he's welcome, like he knows like when we like he loves like going up there and just like spending time with my family, and like not having he was he was scared to go to like to Sholo. I think I
I
scared
would
him
be
because
scared too. I
when
would, honestly.
well, because when I talked about where I was from, like he was like, "What the like?"
You got a bunch of rednecks that are like in a bubble there. But
Yeah. So thankfully, like all was well. Because I
yeah.
mean, I mean, he grew up in Hawaii. They're so like for the most part just like easy breezy. Like
That's like their state flag is a rainbow, isn't
yeah,
it?
right.
Yeah.
They might have a rainbow on there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, but like going home with him, like his family is just like so sweet, like so just like so chill. I'm like, do you guys fight? Like, is there any like is there any drama here? Like my family is there's always something going on. But yeah,
Honestly, I think every family has their freak flag.
yeah, of course, of
Ours
course.
just waves it.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
I'm sure if we dug deep enough into his, he'd have some too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's funny. Chandra, uh, she's your aunt, I guess,
Yeah,
for whoever's watching this.
yeah.
So when I was real little, she called me PETA.
Hmm.
Has she ever said anything about that? It's
Uh-uh.
it's an acronym for pain in the ass.
Oh, actually, maybe she has. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
She calls me her little PETA, like
Yeah.
still to this day. Which I was thinking about it before the interview. Um, like I really was. Yeah, I've always
Pain in the ass,
been
yeah.
a pain in the ass, and so and talking about colon cancer, that's like
Yeah.
pain in the ass
There
too.
you
Like
go.
it's
Fitting,
fitting
yeah.
in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know what made me think of that. I
Yeah.
guess just the
Talking about a family.
talking about family.
So my last question I kind of wanted to ask you is, I mean, the whole podcast is based around mile 17, and that was part of the marathon for me. That was just the Boston Marathon that I ran last year. It was just like where I got to where I had to like dig really deep, like go to the next level to just like finish the race. Like I was dying inside. And so that's how I got the inspiration for the show, was to just use that as a metaphor for life, and, ask myself and other people, like, what's been that point in your life where you didn't think you were going to be able to like continue on, and you just like somehow found like the next level to like push forward and like continue on. And that can be like a year, a day, a part of your life, like a decade, whatever that is for you, like if you don't mind sharing that.
Okay. So um, I would say the first I've had probably a couple,
Many, yeah. You ran a
many,
few marathons, yeah.
but they've all revolved around facing fears. And the first fear I would say would be with cancer. Quite honestly, I've growing up. I remember my grandmother had cancer, and I didn't see much of it. My mom kept me pretty removed from things like that. But I remember thinking, like, I hope I never get cancer. That would be just, I can't, I wouldn't die. I mean, could die, but
Yeah,
that was my biggest fear, right? So when that popped in, like, slapped me in the face out of the blue, and it was finished, I looked and I was like, wait a minute, that was my worst fear. Like,
right.
I just faced my worst fear and it's over and done with. Like,
Like, wow, yeah.
that wasn't that wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Like, you spent so much time stressing about it.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I've since then had so many uh, medical procedures, and I I literally just don't fear that anymore. Don't fear that anymore. And I think I experienced that again with the LGBTQ Utah Mormon thing as well, because suddenly the fear was just my core beliefs, my belief system, my perspective on the world. Um, I started digging out fear tactics, recognizing fear tactics for what they were, not for. I don't need to worry about certain things because I don't hold the same perspective
right,
anymore. I I I faced that fear that don't maybe what I thought about how we are supposed to live our lives was simply coming from a very narrow mindset,
right,
if you will.
right,
And so the fear for me was undoing that narrow mindset to see if I wanted to continue having that framework. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, I'm following you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's those are my two miles, I guess, that both involve fear.
right,
So I'm realizing there are a lot of things that I fear that kind of keep me small or keep me from uh, maybe speaking up, that keep
right,
me from advocating or attending a rally or having a cause or doing something other than what's expected,
right,
um, changing my mind on things. Um,
right, and, like, giving yourself
yeah.
that, like, that space and freedom to change your mind.
Yeah.
And I
Setting a boundary. Like,
Huge. Yeah.
Like with family, like
Yeah.
saying I've been treated a certain way, and I actually don't want that anymore. So
Yeah.
I want it this way. So come along or don't, your
Right.
choice.
Right.
But things like that, they can be incredibly hard, and
Sure. Yeah.
the fear of what will happen will, keep us stuck. And so,
Right, and I heard something before that, like, we spend so much time, like, fearing and worrying about things that, like, there was, like, some tiny percentage that, like, 1% of the things you actually worry about happen,
oh
and
my
it's, like,
gosh.
all the time you're spending, like, worrying and fearful over these things that, like, if that thing actually does happen, like, all you're doing is, like, putting yourself through it twice because you're spending all this time worrying about it, that your body's, like, processing it, that
Yeah.
it's actually happening, and then when it does happen, if it happens, like, now you're having to, like, live through it again. And
Yeah.
so, because for me, like, I am, like, I've always been a very, like, stressed out, like, I mean, I've gotten so much better, but, like, worry about everything. And, like, something I really work on, I'm trying to get better at is, like, just, like, I don't have to control everything. Like, I don't have to, like, things can just play out as they are. And me worrying about it is not going to fix it. Like, all I can do is what I can do. And, like, other than that, like, things are out of my control. And I'd rather not go through the emotions and the spiraling twice if it does happen.
That is really a good perspective.
Yeah.
Like,
It-
like if you have to do it, you have to do it, right?
yeah.
But
Right.
don't do it twice.
Don't do it twice. Yeah, so I remind myself of that constantly because I'm like, because I worry so much. I'm like, okay, stop. Like, if it happens, it happens, and all you can do is what's in your control. Well, thank you so much for doing this and sharing. Oh my God, you're like, you can just, like, talk. You're so great. You can share everything. I love it.
Yeah, it's getting me to shut up that's the problem.